Welcome, everyone. Friday afternoon series. It's the fourth week of, or fourth Friday of January already in 2026. And Matt Wheeler is here with me today. Always great. I shared with Matt last time. Like I use a lot of the stuff that he shares. I will repurpose that and things. And I did the last one he shared. I did that as well. You'll find that on our previously recorded webinars on that. So I'm anxious to take notes and borrow more words from you, Matt. So
Well, I hope I have some
I
awesomeness.
set the bar high, didn't
Oh,
I? There you
totally.
go. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm gonna try this. I want to speak I want to speak to okay, so let's just and I might end up going I might make this gendered even though I don't, this can apply to either gender.
Right. But for pronouns, it's kind of easy to track.
Oh,
So I
sometimes it's
appreciate
so much
that.
easier. So it's almost like I was like, let me speak to the partner. I want to speak to the partner who hurt their partner, right? The one
Mm,
who maybe caused a betrayal wound or opened a betrayal wound, whatever it might be. Because it can be super confusing when even if you came and did disclosure, right? Or if disclosure happened, which is its own pain, because then essentially you weren't forthcoming and they had to discover it, which then creates a whole nother injury of like, well, how do I know you're going to come forward moving forward if you never did before, right? And so there's so many layers of injury and confusion that it can cause, so many fractures. In fact, I had a sweet client the other day said, "You call it a fracture. Can you not call it that?" And I said, "Oh, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what is it about that?" And they're like, it's not a fracture. It's like my bones got crushed.
oh,
And
wow.
oh yeah. And I sat there and I went, oh. And so then the next session, right, I ended up
Hmm.
saying, okay, so when the fracture happened, and I went, oh, wait, you said, and I sat there and I'm like, wait, what do we call it? Crushing. No. Like I remember because there's a specific word. And I remember sitting in that going, hey, I want you to know that I hear you. And I may not get the word right, but I remember that fracture felt too soft. Um, and so this demolishing, right? That because they're trying to describe with words the physical pain. And but as a it's a weird thing when you're a partner who did the hurting. There is a sense of relief that occurs when discovery happens, because it's like you've been hiding, you've been lying. It's like I've been waiting to get caught because if I knew when I get caught that there was no chance you were going to stay with me. And man, if there's something I could tell people, if somebody were to listen to me that hasn't been caught yet, sometimes we justify escalating our behavior
Hmm.
because it's like, well, I've already been told that if I do X, Y, and Z, you're going to leave me. And so then it's like, well, I might as well, because I've already done this, so I might as well do that. And I'm like, oh gosh, that is seriously equivalent to being like, well, the ambulance is on the way to get me. I might as well put a couple more stab wounds in me, like, and it's like, gosh, but at the same time, I'm not sure how anybody who hasn't been caught yet is going to hear this message. But because it's like when a threat or an ultimatum is made, it's not who knows what they're really going to do. The threat and the ultimatum is them trying to say, this is how much I'm hurt, and this is how much I'm scared you could hurt me. Um, it's interesting how many people we may. That's why I often tell people like ultimatums, threats, they don't work. It's actually an expression of pain. And And so if you ever learn that your boundary is like, well, if you ever do this, then I'm kicking you out. It's like, no, that's an expression of how much you're in pain and how much fear you have. But go back to you as a partner who does the hurting, you're going to get a lot of interesting responses from your hurt partner that don't make sense, right? Sometimes they're asking all of these questions. They want to know all these details, and you've found that you give them some detail, and I'll just say it, she grabs that detail and says, "Oh, well, she must be better than me. You must look at porn, or you must do this because I'm not good enough."
Hmm.
And so it's really tempting, not tempting, it's instinctual for an injured partner to want to figure it out. Oh, okay, it must be me. And then they slide to, um, I'm angry and it's all your fault. And now I'm going to tell you what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. And in that moment, it's not as much about anger as it is about fear. And so anytime you ever feel controlled by your hurt partner, if you have, or by your partner who's been hurt, right? If you ever feel controlled, try to move to where you say, "Hey, I can hear your fear coming up. It sounds like you're really scared, and you're hoping that if you tell me how to live, I won't hurt you again. Well, that makes sense. No wonder why you're trying to control." Um, because now, hopefully, you can drop in and go, yeah, that when any of us are afraid, that's what we do. We try to control the environment. We can try to control the situation because if we can get control, our fear goes down. And so next time you see that she's like, well, I'm going to make sure, and here's all the rules, right? Just go straight into, oh my gosh, you're so scared. And rightfully so, because I lied to you and I hurt you and I did all these things. Regardless of my intentions, I impacted you in this way. And so move as quickly as you can into fear, into her fear. Just like if she goes into, well, see, I'm not good enough, and it's like, oh, so you think I did this because you're inadequate. Um, be real with yourself for a second and go, would it have mattered who I was married to? Now, if part of your acting out behaviors or part of your injuries was to blame, or to make excuses, well, I wouldn't have done this if, right? I wouldn't have done this if my wife was more loving. I wouldn't have done this. And it's like you're gonna be so tempted to be like, "Ooh, let me pile on that. Let me make sure you continue to think it's your fault." Great way to manipulate if you want. That's also a wonderful way to destroy your relationship. So, um, your best move is to be like, oh, you're beating yourself up because you can't make sense of it. Okay. So, no wonder why you're beating yourself up. You want to find something you can control, which would be yourself. So, see how quickly you can go, oh, you're beating yourself up with that information. Well, I'm not I'm not going to be the arbiter of whether I'm not going to control all the information because of my fear to try and make sure that you don't hurt yourself with it. Maybe I say, "Hey, let's talk to our therapist and make sure that this is something I should be sharing with you." So I'm not going to restrict to try and protect you because I did that for years. I lied to you trying to protect you, which she might be like, "You're full of crap. Like, there's no way," right? But the reality of it is, I'm done lying. I'm going to start being vulnerable or learn to be vulnerable. And I can't help it if you beat yourself up. It makes me sad. I'm scared for you. I'm scared for us. I don't want to see you beat yourself up, but it makes sense that you do that because you want to find something that you can control, and it's not you. It will never be your fault. It will always be my choices. I don't even understand why I did what I did. So there's no way you can make sense of it, but I'll keep going to therapy. I'll keep attending a support group, looking for my answers. And over time, I'm hoping I can learn to share them with you, right? You're trying to tap into understanding that fear and hurt, but you yourself don't want to control her hurt. You got to let her hurt. And you've got to sit in the discomfort that you are still hurting her. And that's why vulnerability is so important. And somebody in your situation will sit there and go, "Oh, I've already hurt her so much. I shouldn't share that." And it's like, "Oh no, 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 no. That's the same pattern you've perfected. How about I've already hurt her so much, I should practice being vulnerable and letting her figure out how to deal with the hurt. Not in a callous way. It's not my problem, but in a, you know what? You're a grown adult who's lived a potentially much healthier life than I have up until this point. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna learn to let you handle your hurt instead of me trying to control it. So I'll start telling you truths, telling you the big scary stuff. Now again, uh, always work with your therapist to figure out what disclosures should look like, because there are certain bits of information that aren't helpful. But again, that's generally going to be the partner's choice to choose. Hopefully, her therapist is like, let's talk about why that's not a good one to ask, but it's still up to you, right? So you're leaning into, I'm learning as somebody who caused the betrayal to let go of managing your hurt and letting you be hurt and letting me sit in the discomfort. Another thing that's really interesting that I probably like, so we have the different swings that happen, right? I want to control. She wants to control you, right? Which is, hey, that's a sign that you're in pain. And the truth is that you can't control me. And if I don't live my recovery, I'm going to hurt you regardless how much you try to control. And so I'm not going to throw a fit and make a fuss and fight you on your controlling. I'm just going to notice it and talk about it, right? Oh, of course you're in pain. Or you can be a little boy who gets angry and be like, you stop being my mom. You can't control me. No, that's where we learn to grow up and say, no wonder why you're trying to control. I hurt you. That makes sense. Or you get that other swing where she just wants to beat herself up. And then you, no, no, it's not about you. You're beautiful and I love you. And it's like, nope, that doesn't work. I mean, she might like to hear she's beautiful. Like, I'm not saying that, but the fact that you're trying to take away her pain by convincing her to think differently doesn't work. So instead, talk about, oh, well, no wonder what, yeah, you're going to beat yourself up. But no matter how much you beat yourself up, I'm the one that caused the pain. And you're trying to make sense of things that I haven't made sense of myself yet, even though I'm trying. So you have those different directions. I'd love to hear in the chat or in the questions if anybody else has some perspectives that I'm not throwing out, because there's going to be plenty of perspectives. But I've noticed that there is another type of betrayal that occurs that to me is so um, devastating. And that is when I have a hurt partner who has carried into their relationship thoughts and beliefs that are often, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. So let's say somebody carries into their relationship a belief that I am gonna sexually save myself for marriage, and we're gonna get married in the church, and we're going to go to church every week, and we're going to, right? And they build all of these ideas, and they even live those ideas. And then this day comes. This is usually the partner that says to me, never in my life did I imagine that this was going to happen. This isn't us. Now, there, I think, are spectrums here, even with this. But when I have a partner who comes in it's interesting because I've seen it where they've been in recovery, and I think they're genuine. Like a couple like this is often doing really good recovery, but they've been in recovery like let's say 3 years, and they come in and see me, and that hurt partner is still in this place of like shell shock. And it'll take me a second to try and like I say a second, many
Yeah.
sessions,
Yeah. Yeah. A hot
right?
second. Yeah.
Yeah. It'll take me sessions sometimes because because I'm often going, okay, what are we stuck on here? What's happening? Like disclosure happened this long ago, and you're still like there's still this feeling of a shell shock or whatever. And again, I there's not a judgment here. It's what's going on. Well, in this situation, there's often this feeling of, and it sounds so rude the way I say this, and I'm looking for better language, but it's almost like there was this potentially unhealthy fantasy that that betrayed partner was sitting in, which is if we I did all of these things and we live a certain way, then things like this don't happen, right? Don't happen to people like us. And I'm sitting there going, like, knowing things like this happen when people like us uh hide and lie and numb and right, like all sorts of amazing people, and I mean that genuinely, like really good, wonderful people don't know how to live healthy and they end up doing really unhealthy things to hurt other people around them. Right? When you see somebody, and it feels like all the time, sadly, where you'll see, like, oh, this minister who's written this many books, who everybody knows was caught in an affair. And it's like, oh, I just can't believe it. And it's like, no, that's when we get into a place in our lives, and this happens to any of us, where we are not, where we're hiding parts of ourselves, when we're not dealing with parts of ourselves, when we're finding ways to numb ourselves, then we do things and we're really good at hiding them because we don't want to destroy our image or ruin our career. That's how these fantasy relationships, marriages will then come crumbling down. And you have a hurt partner who's sitting there in this, well, I did all the right things. Well, when I've found often a hurt partner now has to face like often like a spiritual crisis and a belief crisis around, but I thought if I did these things, the world would work out. So then they're angry at God, which is fine. Be angry at God, but like I'm angry at God because I did all the things, or I'm angry at the world, or they don't know how often to work through that hurt because they don't know where to put it. You know, do you go back to that person who taught you when you were a kid, which might have been your mother or your aunt or your uncle or whoever who said to you, hey, if you just do good things, bad things won't happen, whether they used those words or not, all that energy comes up. And so these are some of the states or state, I don't even want to call them stages because I've seen some people who are only in one. I've seen some people go from one, then to another, right? And that's why the only type of healing that ever works is a healing where we are in a space of equality, owning our own crap, learning to talk to each other about it. I'm not your mom, you're not my dad, and we're not trying to control each other. We're not trying to blame ourselves only. And can I tell you some of the sweetest couples I've ever worked with are couples who are like, "Oh my gosh, no, like this wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have done this." And the other one's
Mhm.
like, "No, no, no, it's not you. It's all me. It's all my." And
Mhm.
it's like, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are so sweet." And unless you can actually just figure out your stuff and in some ways will hold your partner accountable, and that's the weird part. It's really tough to tell a hurt partner like, "Hey, we have to look for your accountability in this process, but not that you're to fault for any of his behaviors. We still have to figure out how to teach you to show up in this relationship differently." Right. And so when we can learn to get into that space where we're owning our own stuff and showing up in the relationship for each other, and for ourselves, and not blaming the other person and not blaming ourselves, okay, that's where we can start to work through all that hurt and betrayal. I have no idea why this has been on my mind so much, and I thought I'm bringing this to the webinar. Hopefully, it's resonating with somebody. If it's causing frustration, oh my gosh, I'm so happy. Put it in the questions. Let's talk about the frustration. If you think I'm missing something, I probably am. Let's talk about it. Tammy, you have any other thoughts or
Well,
comments?
I do, and I really appreciate when you're talking about and you talked about formal therapeutic disclosure and using professionals. But I thought having parameters of like, yes, I'm not going to protect you from the hurt of telling, but if there's ground rules of like, we're not going to do this at 10 o'clock at night, like having some, if certain questions, that's a great one, and let's talk about that at our with our therapist, our qualified professional to help us navigate this, because we probably aren't like not dismissing the question or going like, oh, I can't tell you that because I need to protect you. And I liked when you said, I've protected you for so long, and I'm like, yeah, no, you said you're going to protect that person, but it was really protecting you. It's like, I'm doing this because I don't want to hurt that person. Well, if you didn't really want to hurt the person, you wouldn't have done the problematic behavior in the first place. But that's the lies, the addicts are, we tell ourselves, it's like, well, as long as they don't know, it won't hurt them. But I like,
Definitely.
but I think with having like, yeah, I want to be vulnerable. I want to tell you the truth. I want to make sure that we have no practice with doing this. So getting input from other people, sponsors, accountability people, people who are further ahead on the journey, qualified professionals, all of those people that can help us navigate this so that we do the best job that we can and not, add on to the hurt. It won't be 100%, and I really I resonated with the whole, when you're talking about the getting stuck, and it does feel like extra betrayal. Like, I've got this betrayal by my spouse, and then it's the betrayal of all of my belief system that if
Yes.
I just was a good person and I did the right things, then then the world is going to work out. And I've had lots of discussions with people of like, when bad things happen to good people and all of that, kind of stuff. And it's life, like we are not guaranteed that, I mean, um, whether it's a health crisis, whatever it is, lots of unfair things happen, and it can be, sorry, my phone's ringing. A crisis of beliefs and all of that kind of stuff, and it's also an opportunity, because I think those are the things, like the relationship struggles, the spiritual struggles. When if I'm wrestling with that stuff, I'm going to find out, like there's an opportunity to move it forward rather than, as you were saying, getting stuck. So, s- but it's the willingness to step into the messy, I mean, this is like, and with a lot, like, with this, you get thrown into the middle of the muck. It isn't like you got a choice to like dip your toe in. So there, but there, some somebody called me the queen of reframing, and I do, because every problem is an opportunity for, if I get stuck in the problem and how horrible everything is, bad place for me to be.
Well, the phrase that I use,
Hmm.
and if you want to write this down and quote me on it later, because this is actually one of
Okay,
my
it's
favorite.
going to be a good one.
This is
Okay.
one of my favorites. I'm not actually joking. Like this one took me forever to figure out, and it was like this huge revelation to me. And that is the repair. Um, sorry.
I started
It's,
writing.
I know, my bad. I'm backing it up. Attachment. Okay. So
Hmm.
attachment, closeness, connection, however you want to frame that, right?
Hmm.
Intimacy is a word that we might use.
Hmm.
Attachment, intimacy, closeness is born in the repair of conflict. And I think we've talked about this
We
plenty
have, yeah.
because
It's all about the repair.
and so some people are so conflict averse, they don't
Hmm.
realize they are missing all the opportunities to connect,
Hmm.
right? Like I'm not saying it's easy. I had a situation recently with my wife who where I I tried to bring something in that I knew she would not like, and it creates that I know it's conflict, and at the same time I'm partially excited because I'm like, but like let's try, because if we can work through this, this will give us even more closeness. And like I've found that in my therapy room, when a client's mad at me, I'm actually excited. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. One, you're being willing to vocalize it instead of just firing me. If I did something wrong or if I bothered you in a certain way, the fact that you're talking to me about it is amazing. This is an opportunity for trust to be built. And so I've learned to like reframe any conflict we run into is an opportunity for us to increase trust and intimacy. And we don't even have to resolve the conflict right. It's just the fact that we're willing to get into it and try and figure it out. That makes it so amazing. And so I heard you say that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Tammy, you're nailing it.
Well, and to me, the relationships I don't care about, I don't get into the. I'm not
I
willing to get into a
avoid the
conflict.
messy.
Exactly. Yeah, I just go. I'm not willing to put the effort in for that relationship. So to your point, yes, it's an opportunity for closeness and connection versus, yeah, not worth
But
the time.
that's you from a healthy place because
Hmm.
I've met amazing, wonderful people who the relationships they care most about are the ones they avoid the most because they've
Hmm.
never learned yet to actually work through and stay in conflict. And they've learned avoidance, right? So there's a lot of really good people out there that are wonderful humans that just haven't had the growth that you have had. But when I'm where you're at. When I'm like, hey, look, I'll get into the messy. And if I see over and over again after a certain amount of time, I'm like, hey, you know what? I can't keep trying to get vulnerable. If you don't want a close relationship, I can avoid the messy.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, but I've had so many opportunities, like things that started off a little, and I just was like, and as I got to know the person, I just went, I'm going to be willing, I'm going to engage, and like they're dear people to me now,
Oh yeah.
so it really does make a difference. So, okay. So
We got
some
some good
questions and
questions.
comments. So let's go for it. I'm in a local support group. My therapist has recommended I do EMDR. She suggested I have a moral injury. My values align from with eye for eye. My husband has done everything since disclosure. He told me on his own accord and even did a formal therapeutic disclosure and polygraph. Agreed to yearly polygraphs, but I am so mad. I'm 2 years, and most days I spend tearing him down and demoralizing him. Maybe it's a test. Who knows? Do you think EMDR will help? There's
Oh
a
my
lot
gosh.
of good stuff on here. So
Can I
please.
tell like whoever you are, like your self-awareness, at least in this question, it brings me so much joy because I've worked with so many couples over the years, and I will run into certain situations where I there's a certain amount of like I can sit with a hurt partner and go, I don't blame you 1 second for all that hurt and all that feeling of unfairness and that eye for an eye. What I hear and what I see is it's almost like um I said to there's somebody who I won't be specific, but I said to somebody I have the opportunity of being really close to, but also being a mentor to. I said to them the other day, you have to get to a place where you have to ask yourself, as hard as you try, you're never going to make up and fix and repair. Is your partner, right? And in this case, a female, very much how you're describing here. Is your partner ever going to be capable of giving you empathy? And so if when I read this, those are those cases where I'm like, hey, even as a therapist, I can give empathy all day long to a hurt partner. And oftentimes, as I give them empathy and as I teach both of them empathy and like understanding each other and learning how they negatively impact each other, empathy just naturally comes as a product of that typically, but every once in a while I'll get a case where I have a partner, but for you to own it the way you have, I'm like, bless you. Like, this is amazing because the fact that you're owning most days I spend tearing him down, demoralizing him, I'm like, oh, I see that so often. And that you're owning it is like super powerful. I don't know exactly what you need to do. Will EMDR help? I'm not an EMDR expert. I've done a lot of EMDR for myself, like meaning I've seen an EMDR therapist personally, and it's been wonderfully helpful for me. I've done somatic experiencing for therapy. I thought that was a beautiful modality as well. Um, I'll tell you, actually, the research shows far and above the most important factor in therapy working is how well you feel connected to your therapist. Like, meaning that you feel like you can trust your therapist, you feel like your therapist has your best interest at heart. Like the modalities that all of us therapists talk about, like being amazing, which I do tend to like certain ones more than others. What's actually more important is your connection with your therapist. At least my understanding of the research, that tends to be the most important thing. And so, will EMDR help you? I don't know. Could it? Sure. I like it. I tend to see EMDR more as, let's say you have a moral injury and you can find a place in your life where you learned that maybe it's not safe to have empathy and compassion for somebody that hurt you. And if you can use EMDR to try and reprocess that experience, then sure, EMDR might be wonderfully helpful. But I'm hearing in those spaces, what's preventing you from going to a place of empathy and compassion towards your partner? Um, because if we are going to heal as a couple, there actually needs to be mutual empathy and compassion for each other. It does not mean that it doesn't mean that we forgive the behaviors and that we shouldn't be hurt by them anymore. It's like, no. It's the ability to have empathy and compassion and feel the love for them as an individual, even though they caused me a lot of pain. So I hope that answers your question. I am honestly so proud of you for having that awareness. And I would seek therapy for sure, working on what injuries are there that are not allowing you to move to a place of empathy and compassion. Could be that it's a protection, and you call it a test. The truth is, you can't test someone enough to build trust, to feel safe. And so, you'll have to spend some time in therapy. You could try EMDR, see if it helps. But somewhere you learned that not being empathetic, not being compassionate is gonna protect you. That would be
Yeah,
my assumption and
yeah,
judgment, but I don't know for sure.
right. Yeah. This is all you're sharing stuff. We're sharing stuff. Take what you need and leave the rest. And, I have done EMDR. It was wonderfully helpful for me, and it's on specific things. So it could be, and it's not invasive. Like, so it could be worth a try. Here's what I'm wondering. Like take him, I'm going to use you or her and he is a him. I don't know if that's true. I, I can't imagine how painful your day must be
Oh,
to feel like I feel for you of of being so angry and having to say all of that negative stuff all of the time, him receiving it, that's a whole other thing. But for you, wow, this like I feel for you being stuck in such
Oh yeah.
negative space that hurts me. And I wonder what it would do. Like I think it's a safety thing. Like if I just stay here, then and I'm pushing him
Right.
away and I'll see if he stays and I'll but is this really serving you? And 2 years from now, is this how you want your life to be? And so I love that you're looking for
Yeah.
possible options to get out of that. Because again, take him out of the equation, but for you to be stuck in feeling that much toxic stuff all the time. I've talked about forgiveness. Forgiveness is something I do for myself. I am not going to let somebody, I learned this, live rent free in my head, giving them space to take up
Well,
all of my negative.
well, except that when we try to figure out why do they live there rent free, right? Like,
I give
and
them
that's
permission.
well, and so that's the tough part because if you remember that third piece where if somebody has like this broken fantasy,
Yeah,
I don't want to deal with the reality that my fantasy has been broken, and so I'll just stay in a place of being angry. That could be enough, and in a
absolutely.
let me almost become an abuser to you because you abused me, right? Like that kind of right eye for an eye type of thing. I mean, there's so many possibilities of why we stay stuck in that, but the fact that you see it, I'm like, oh, come back to us as you're breaking this apart and learning what those stuck pieces are. I hope EMDR helps for you. I think EMDR tends to be more about specific events. And so
Yes.
that would be the only thing where I'm like, if there's specific events, then
Well,
sure.
so I will. This is a really short version, but I called it my white hot rage. Like, and it would come up, and it would, it felt like it hit me from nowhere. Now I know it wasn't. Like I get all the underlying stuff, but like it would come up, and I would like have to protect other people from me because I did not know what was going to happen, and they could
Uh,
see. And I like if somebody tried to approach me, I would go, mm-mm, mm-mm, stay away. I'm trying to calm down. And so it wasn't on a specific event. It was on a wound. And
yeah,
so so there could be EMDR
yeah,
on that eye for the eye, but really on that toxic, that venting rage. I can actually really hone in on that, and one. I'm not saying this for everybody. One session with my wonderful therapist on that specific, I said, I can't, this is not serving me. This
uh-huh,
white hot rage is not serving me. She did one session with me, and I have not felt that since. Now,
yeah.
I've also worked on the underlying issues, and I get a whole lot more, but I didn't have to do more.
As I said, I'm not trained in EMDR, but as I sat with it, I'm like, you know what? There are themes that I've worked
Hmm.
on in EMDR that have been super
Hmm.
helpful. So that's
Yeah.
why I was trying to say, like, I'm not an expert on EMDR.
Yeah.
But we got quite a few good questions here.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. Keep going. So yes, but try whatever. Um, but yeah, and Debbie McCraig talks about having an anger journal. I love that. So check
uh,
out her webinar. She's talked about that too. Whenever I listen to couple success stories, the couples that have made it are therapists or coaches. How often do you see recovery happen for couples, for normal people? I've been feeling like a couple making it is actually a rare thing. No, I know
well,
thousands of couples, but you
in
would
fact,
probably do
my
more.
first thought was I'd be careful of couples and coaches that are using, I mean, this might sound funny, are using their success story to sell something.
Yeah, I agree
Uh,
with you.
um, because then, I mean, there are times where I'm like, ooh, how much of that's happening because, how much of this is, it just makes me sometimes a little questionable and maybe I need to do some EMDR around that. Um, but I would tell you, I wish I had a percentage. Um, It's hard though because I think there are plenty of people who don't make it before they ever even get to a couples therapist, which is one reason why me personally and a few other couple therapist friends of mine, like we think couples therapy can be a really good part of a beginning process. But and you know, you got to be careful. It's got to be the right therapist. Um, but I will tell you, I see success stories all the time. Like, and you know, I've had couples come in and they're like, "Hey, we're here, but the truth is we think we just want to figure out how to be good co-parents and just move forward with the divorce." And I can't tell you how many times I'm like, "Okay, I mean that's fine if that's what you guys have decided. If you're interested, I mean we can try a few things." And
Mhm.
and and then I see them where they you know, years later they're like, "Oh my gosh, like we're so glad we saw you because that changed our lives." And I mean, the
Mhm.
truth is they changed their
They
lives.
change,
I've
right?
seen
But yeah,
plenty of clients come in and it falls apart and it doesn't work. And to be honest, sometimes I'm like, oh man, it's rough seeing people not make it. And so, yeah, there's people that don't make it. I don't have a percentage, but I'll tell you, if all I was seeing was people not making it, I don't know that I would stay in this. I see
I'm with
people
you.
make,
Yeah.
I see people making it all the time. I would focus on individual therapy
Hmm.
and I do individual therapy with people, but I mostly do couples. And I do it in part because I see people making it all the time, and they have to just have the right approach with the right therapist. I'm sure there's plenty of couples that have seen me and then found a couples therapist that they liked better. And I've seen people come to me that they're like, they've seen several couples therapists until they got to me. I would tell you, keep fighting. Like, don't give up hope, but you're probably right in the middle of a crazy amount of pain. So it's hard.
And I would say, I mean, like, because I was thinking, wow, like I know lots of therapists who, their relationship didn't make it. So like I have the contrary. I know more people who aren't therapists or coaches, who have done the work for their relationships and have, have not just settled, like Matt was saying, like we, it transformed us, great. That's what this whole thing is about. And I'm with Matt. I wouldn't do the work if I didn't really believe that and see. I mean, it's experience people changing. Okay. I often feel regret that I let partner back in. He is showing me less and less empathy. He sometimes lashes out at me. He is under a lot of stress, but he can be very kind and helping, but also very indifferent and rude. He is not like this at first, and I'm regretting and crying a lot after all he did to me. I did not sign up for more abuse and making me more miserable. I think it was all an act and that this is his true nature, like he was in the past. He always the victim and says, I do everything for you. I took distance since a week, and he acts indifferent, but not concerned at all. But my fears, being
Mhm.
alone, future inner child, etc., are coming up, and I want more distance for working on this. How do I handle this? He won't help me and acts like he doesn't care, while he was the one who would not leave me alone for 3 years. I start doubting everything now, and tonight I had the feeling I can't trust this person. I also feel bad for him because he is under stress, and I feel guilty. Wow, this is a complicated one.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah.
So having regret, I mean, that's a pretty common feeling for us to have, especially when we try something and it doesn't work out the way we were hoping it would work out. And so it really stinks that he's lashing out on you. You don't deserve that, and it doesn't matter how much stress he's under. You don't deserve it. It's not okay, right? There's behaviors that are not okay, regardless. Um, I'm glad that he can be kind and helping, but that indifference and being rude's got to be tough as well. It's tough because sometimes people will say, "Oh, they weren't like this at first." Yeah, it's hard to know. Was that an act? Was it not? Um, I guess sometimes it's, oh, you like, and there was another piece here. You said he's always the victim and says, I do everything for you. It's really interesting because that jabbed at me. And my thought was, if he said, I always do everything for you, um, I don't know. I'd have to figure out a way to like hand that back, which would be something like, huh, well, I imagine doing recovery is really hard if you're always doing everything for me. I wonder what it's going to look like when you figure out how to do it for you, right? Like, because I I'm I have been victimized many times, unfortunately, in my life. But it I have if I'm gonna stay a victim, right? It's that weird space of being in a victim place and choosing, it's such a hard thing to say. I hate saying it this way, but like choosing to stay in a victim place, like there's a space in which I have to figure out how to work through the hurt and pain and choose for myself and get out of a victim space. And my hope is he learns to do that. And I hear you almost saying, well, this sucks. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be distant forever. And again, it's like, okay, then what's it going to look like for you to lean in and work on yourself? Because you can try to work with him, and at the same time, please start working and or continue working on what's going on for you. Um, and again, do your best to be empathetic, but not make excuses for him, right? So I feel bad for him because he's under a lot of stress. Okay, but are we not allowing him to be accountable? And that's one of the things that we can do as hurt partners is, hey, I get that you're under a lot of stress, and if you talk to me like that, I'm gonna need to leave the room. Or right, that's a boundary. If you do this, I know I'm gonna need this for me. And so then I'm gonna go do this thing for me. And I'm not doing it to punish you. I'm doing it because I can't do this, right? I can't do this hurt and pain this way. And so, practice figuring out what your needs are and how to show up. And hopefully you're not getting caught in that negative cycle where you're staying when he continues to do things that aren't working for you. And so you've got to figure out, well, how do I take care of myself while he figures out himself? And then what can we actually do together? Uh, there's a lot there. There's so many pieces we could jump into. We still have a few more questions.
Yeah, and I put a whole bunch of resources, including Moving on Alone drop-in group. It's for partners who have left, been left, or have one foot out the door. But also the Healthy Boundaries work group started this week. You could still join, and that could be really helpful with moving boundaries. When he says, and Matt is much nicer than I am, when he says does everything for you, my first thought was, oh, did you act out sexually for me, with other people? Like that's where I went. Yeah, I went to the
Yeah,
snarky.
so snarky
Yeah,
usually doesn't work, but
I know, but like that's where my mind
well,
went. It
and
was like,
really that's your
so
empathy towards the partner coming out right there,
I
which
it
is
is.
I
I'm
get
like, yeah,
it.
yeah, because I'm like, I don't think so. And if you're really doing everything, no, no, so yeah, I have empathy for you. And like, I see this with partners all the time. And I see amazing, smart, beautiful people. And they're fed these lies of like, you're going to be all alone if, or they're buying into the lie of you're going to be all alone if you don't, and look at all he do. He's under stress. You're under stress. Are you doing that kind of stuff? I don't think so. I mean, look at you can't sleep. You're stressed. You're not doing that. So whatever justification he's using for doing, inappropriate behavior. I mean, real recovery takes 2 to 5 years. I don't hear recovery on any level with this. I hear him doing the same things in a manipulative way. I often share, no addict changes until the pain of change is less than the pain of staying the same. Right now, he can move things around and make you feel guilty. Nobody can make anybody do anything, but he knows how to
Sometimes
manipulate those things.
sometimes there's change, but there's not healing, right?
Yeah,
And so that's the other thing, it doesn't mean you need to stay in the relationship. And
right.
I can't ever tell someone when they should or shouldn't stay. Like, but leaving is a beautiful choice. Like, meaning there are plenty of situations where I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you for having left. Like, I can see where I would have made that choice probably sooner than you did, right? Like that happens.
And everybody gets to choose. There's a 4-part webinar, and I put the link in 4 webinars that we pulled together for Should I Stay or Should I Go? It's just information.
Yeah.
Check it out. Free, something to listen to. Okay, my partner's addiction is to porn, masturbation, fantasy, objectification, and flirting. He's in early recovery now, multiple meetings a week, CSAT 2 hours a week, etc. Even if he achieves real long-term recovery, will he always struggle with this addiction in some way? as a person in long-term recovery, I'm going to say no, like no, but I'm always doing what I need to do to take care of it. So do I think about like no, if things shift, my recovery got internalized. So no, but I, I still go to 12-step meetings. I still do what I need to do to take care of myself,
Yeah.
but
And this is
it shifts.
this is tough because there's so many factors.
Yeah.
One of the things that I would say is the faster a partner can learn to not take it personal, and we can learn to get rid of the shame around any behavior. So let's say even looking at porn, right? So if I can learn as a partner not to take it personal, which is hard, I mean, because it's painful, right? And we can get rid of the shame, um, then we can move into a space where I can be a supportive partner, and it hurts when you, let's say, have a slip. And at the same time, I'm not going to get in and try and control it. I'm not going to get in and try and like make you figure out recovery so that it never happens again, but rather like I can now figure out how to show up as a supportive spouse, which they're trying to figure out how to do as well. But when they can make their recovery about their recovery, right? And I can be supportive, that helps both of us so much more. Um, and there might be a part where I have to accept that, hey, in some way, they're always going to be battling and working and living right so that this thing doesn't take over, right? And that's, but I would say that about, well, when I was a kid and I grew up and I've done therapy, and it's like even my trauma that I have, it's like, is that always going to be a part of me? Well, kind of, but can I go back to therapy when I need to go back to therapy? Can I use my tools, like, and so it's really the sooner we as a partner can learn to not take it personal, not take control, be supportive, but not you're like a parent, right? Then it's way better.
Yeah. Well, and my recovery is my recovery. It's my responsibility. So,
Hmm.
but I know lots of people in long-term recovery, and we see each other at meetings. We're still doing what we need to do, but we're not struggling. Like it was a struggle in the early
Uh-huh.
days, and it isn't. So it's incorporated into all areas of our life. So partner here, can you give examples of how we should show up differently too? Do you mean knowing our needs, setting boundaries? We can only request, and the betrayal can say no to our requests, and we get to choose. It may appear that you aren't showing up differently, but we are. We are choosing. This is our
Mhm.
right. We aren't delusional. We are choosing
Oh
what is
yeah.
right for us. We don't all want reconciliation as the outcome. Absolutely. We have moving on alone. So yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those things. So absolutely, I totally agree. Sometimes not reconciling is can be the best choice for one of you or even both of you, right? Um, what the way that I try to describe this is how can I learn to be present and like be supportive, but I'm not doing it for you and you're not doing it for me. I'm present and I'm supportive. And th that is what letting others know our needs, and they can say yes or no. Setting boundaries, right? But I'm not controlling and managing you. I'm being present. And but learning to be present's really hard because we got our own crap that we're learning to work through. And so trying to teach people that being present is the key, not me fixing it for you, not me avoiding it. I'm present. And learning how to do that as a hurt partner is really important, very difficult, but oh, it feels so good because I can be here in your pain and I can't fix it.
Yes. Okay. I took a picture of the other questions. I'm going to send them to you, and we'll get to them next time. And they may even, be a lead for what you want to share. How's that? Did you
Let's do
freeze?
it.
Oh, no. Okay. You froze for a second. Okay. All right.
What?
Thanks, everyone. Great questions, great feedback. We will proceed with the next time. I will go fix the calendar too. So thanks, everyone.
Good job, guys.
Bye.